The next stats that we look at is rental yield, which is basically it measures the cash an investment property produces per annum as a percentage to property's value. So if you were to calculate your gross yield, property value, for example, is 700,000, weekly rent is about 480,000, your gross yield is about 3.56%. What you do is basically multiply that by 52, and divide that by the value of the property, express that in percentage, and you've got 3.56%. Now remember, this is gross, so all the expenses and outgoings are not excluded from this. So to calculate that, you've got to calculate the net yield, and net yield is actually harder to calculate, but if you really wanted to for your own property, you could. Total income rent per annum, which is the same, and less all the expenses that are outgoing, council rate, insurances, property management, whatever is outgoing, and then you divide that by property value, times that by 100, and you'll find what the rental yield is. But the net yield calculation actually excludes mortgage interest and taxes. So these are some of the rental yields in Melbourne for various suburbs, and you can look at the further they are from the city, the higher the rental yield, and the reason is because these properties are way too expensive. The closer they are to the city, the more expensive the properties are. So obviously properties a little bit further away from the CBD give you better rental yield. What you have to remember is that a higher rental yield, what does it actually mean? What does it tell us? It actually means that there is more demand from renters in that area, and usually when that happens, that means the demand is actually exceeding supply, which basically means that capital growth should be around the corner. What you got to remember is that if a suburb actually becomes desirable, people wanting to rent in that suburb are the first to actually get there. Now, you also have to remember that historically, data shows that generally if a suburb shows greater than 5% rental yield, it will soon experience capital growth, which tells us about something about these areas. And when you're trying to listen to signals over the net, we had Frankston pop up a couple of times, and further in the course I will discuss details, and when we get to the suburb level, I will discuss details about Frankston. So that's what this is. So let's look at some of the rental yields. This is again REIV website, and you can go there and you can pick up rental yields by suburb, and you find out 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, what's happening there. So you go and have a look at, again, they've got really good heat maps, so you can just quickly tap on it. Doesn't work. This one doesn't work. But what it says is that, okay, for example, Hawthorne East, and you can look at what's the rental yield is there, and this is for 2-bedroom houses. You could go to and look at 3-bedroom houses, and these ones are actually clickable, so you can click on it and a window pops up which tells you that in Rowville the gross rental yield is about 3.7, and that's what it is. So let's go back further and look at what Emerald's doing. You can get 4.4 there. If you go to Pakenham, you can get about 5% there. So see, as I said, further away from the city, the rental yield is going to go up because land's not that expensive. Closer to the city, you'll see rental yield not as much, unless you're actually in an apartment in that area. Even that, it's still harder to get that high rental yield. And if I just zoom out and you look at, the darker it is, the dark blue color actually represents higher rental yield, and you can see all the dark blue ones are actually on the outskirts. So that's what you've got to remember in terms of rental yield, which basically means that these suburbs enjoy good rental yield. But this is not the only stats we look at to actually predict whether or not that area is actually going to explode in capital growth. So but it's a good indicator that there are people who want to live there, so there are people who want to rent there, and you can get 5% return in that area. You can similarly look at 4 bedroom houses and see what's happening there. Again, it's the same scenario. If you look at, well, if this is Glen Iris, 2.9, nothing really. Um, Median price is about 1.5 mil, and the weekly rental is about almost $868, so which is quite a bit. So that's what you got to look at.